Um, Happy to say, everyone. This is the release engineering meeting for March the 1st, 2022. My name is Adolfo Garcia, and I'm one of the tech leads for SIG Release, and I'm going to be your host today. We have two topics in the agenda. Well, they're not in the agenda right now, but I would like to share them with you. And if anyone else has any other topics to add to today's meeting, feel free to add it in the agenda, which I'm updating right now. As a reminder, this meeting is governed by the Kubernetes Code of Conduct, and it's going to be, which basically boils down to be awesome to each other. It's going to be recorded and shown on and stored on the YouTube channel of Kubernetes. So be mindful of whatever you say and do, or disconnect if you want, if you don't want your face to show on camera. First up, I would like to give the opportunity to give anybody who's new a chance to say hello. You don't have to, but if you want, we're happy to have you. Okay, so mostly familiar phrases today. Then we would usually do a release manager's update. I don't see any of the current release managers in the meeting today, not the branch managers for the release at least. So I think we can skip that part. And, okay. So okay, now moving on to the first thing I wanted to share with all of you is we've been working today. Well, as of last week, we did some pretty substantial changes to the container image promoter, which is the tool that copies all of the artifacts from staging to the production registries. So whenever any Kubernetes or any other of the smaller projects wants to release an artifact or an image, they go through a promotion process, and the promoter takes a pull request and shares and copies all of the artifacts to their final public destinations. We are working on a lot of changes to the promoter because there are two efforts currently that involve the container image promoter, which is one, the signing of images and artifacts, and the other one is the new distribution schema that we're working on to allow more other cloud providers to share the load in distributing the images and artifacts. So last week we had several refactors. Some of them are still PRs in flight, but the idea is that to lower the some of the complexity in the promoter, there were several code reorganizations. One of the changes involved adding support for local registered credentials. So previously you had to use account keys that the promoter used to use as identity, but now it will read your local Docker register credentials. So you can this means that you can more easily run the promoter in your local machine, which has speed up the development and improvements substantially, because you can now run the promoter in your machine, set up 2 test registries, and start promoting things locally. And so that's the first one I wanted to share. I don't know if there are any questions around that effort or. Okay, that was the first one. The second one I wanted to share with all of you was, so we are currently doing a big effort to sign all of the container images and also the binaries and other artifacts that we put out with every release. The project involves signing not only the Kubernetes images, but we'll also work with all of the smaller projects to sign their images and other artifacts. So if you are part of a project under the Kubernetes organization that releases images or artifacts, we will also be covering and extending the Kubernetes chain of trust to your artifacts and ensuring that your images get signed whenever we promote them to release them. So one of the things that I wanted to talk about today is the way we are structuring the trust in the several Google Cloud projects and service accounts that the promoter uses, the promoter and also the Kubernetes release process, so that it can take on the necessary identities of the accounts that will eventually do the signing of the artifacts. So let me open up the issue so that I can show you some of that. I'm gonna link it in the chat and maybe later add it to the agenda. Oh, that's the one. I don't know. Thank you. And I'm gonna share my window. Okay, can you see the window with the issue?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So this is the way we're structuring the service accounts and the way we need the impersonation to work in order to sign the images. So every time you sign an image, the key to signing it is that we need to generate ODIC identity tokens from a service account, and the signer libraries will use that token to do to request the keys and to sign the images and record into the transparency log the identity and the operation that we just did. So you can in the future go back to the transparency log and check that the signature took place, who did it, and all of that. And so in GCP, whenever you want to generate identity tokens, you have to impersonate a service account. So you have to run your credentials, impersonate the account, and generate the identity token, and then use that. So we've been thinking about ways to how to structure, especially concerning security and access to the signer accounts. We've been thinking on what is the best way to structure that. So I would like to start with the first, the one in the middle, which is the impersonation flow during image promotion. We have three scenarios where we will be signing things. One is the public images that happen during image promotion. Those signatures will be the signatures that will get eventually to downstream users, and those are the signatures that then users will eventually verify to ensure images haven't been tampered with. The other two are the end-to-end tests of the image promoter, and the other one is the staging flow when the staging phase of the release process. So whenever we do a Kubernetes release, we build everything, stage it, and if artifacts look good, we release them in the release phase. So all of those images during staging are going to be signed, and eventually the promoter will check those signatures before accepting them for promotion. So the first one I would like to talk about is the most important one, which is the impersonation flow that happens during image promotion. I don't know if you can see. I think if I zoom into the the graphic, it doesn't grow. I don't know if you can read it or it's too small. But okay, we can go over it anyway. So when the most complex part of the identity flows is the identity flow that happens inside of the promoter. This is because there are several identities that come into play when an image promotion happens. So if you think about it, you run the promoter, and so the first one is the promoter starts and it's like, I don't know, kindly pointed out to me last week. It starts in a pod that is annotated with cloud identity, and that takes an identity. So the process is running as a GCP account. So during the whole image promotion process, the promoter will run with that service account, and it will switch to various identities depending on the thing it needs to do. So the first identity that comes into play is reading the source registries. So the promoter is going to take images from a source registry and move those and copy those to one or more destination registries. So the first identity it needs to take on is the identity that it's going to read from the source registries. Generally, those source registries are open and public and read only for everyone. So usually there's no need to have an identity there. But you can specify one if your registry is not open and read and open to the public for reading. So that's the first one. Then the second identity is when the promoter is going to write to each of the target registries. So you can specify one identity for all, or each registry can have its own. So those are the first two. Those are important because the promoter will shift and activate saves internally. It will activate service accounts, GCP service accounts, to do the container reading and from the source registries, and then activate another service account for writing to the registries once the promotion takes place. And then we need to add another identity, which is going to be the signer account that all of the Kubernetes artifacts are going to be signed with. So our current proposal in this issue is to create one main project to hold all of the things that have to do with signing. At first, it will only contain basically the service accounts that the promoter will use to sign things. But depending on how things evolve in the next few months, and mostly depending on how the Kubernetes delegation of trust from Sigstore ends up working, we may have to use the KMS in that project for storing keys, for example. It is quite likely that we're going to have to store some keys there. So our proposal is to restrict all of those things and services and resources, cloud resources that have to do with signing in that project. So we can better control who has access to it and make sure that only the service accounts that we allow can impersonate the accounts in there. So this is still in debate. I mean, I personally think that that's the best way to go. So whenever the promoter is going to sign things, it's going to impersonate a service account from that project. And we can later on, when we do the tough delegation from Sigstore, specify that that account is going to be the official, that identity is going to be the official identity for all Kubernetes artifacts that we sign. If anyone has other suggestions of how to structure or where to set the accounts that are going to be the identity of the artifacts, where to host them, happy to hear them. So continuing on the flow, the promoter will run through the promotion, and then once the images are stored, it will pick the first one, sign it using the identity. So it will generate identity tokens of the signer account, use those to sign. Then once the signature is done, it will store the signature inside of the registry, the first target registry. For that, it needs to take the identity of the writer of the registry, and then once it's stored, it will copy to any additional registries that you're promoting to. I don't know if that's a clear overview of how we want to do this, or if there are any questions on this part of the promotion and flows. Okay, so I'll move to the next one. Okay, the next one, I would like to do an overview. Okay, maybe just briefly going on the impersonation flow of the image promoter end-to-end tests. This is simpler. Here, during end-to-end testing, the promoter uses a fixed service account to do all of its testing. It will do actual promotions of artifacts and images using a service account that is defined in a JSON key file, a JW token that's stored in the cluster. And there, our proposal is to keep using that and simply generate another dummy service account to use for identity and signing during the test. Now, this is, I think, trivial and not much controversy or debate here. All of this would be on the same testing project, and there's no complexity there. And finally, the other one we're looking at here is the impersonation flow during the staging of the artifacts. So once again, when we run our Kubernetes release, we build everything, stage the artifacts, and then we want to sign those. And we want to sign them because before releasing, we want to have them signed so that the promoter can actually verify the signatures that staging generated. And if they check, then allow them for promotion and copy them to the registries. By the way, this verification is already in place. So if we were to cut a new release of the image promoter right now, it will check for signatures in every image that gets promoted. If it doesn't have an image, if it doesn't have a signature, it will accept it. But if it has one and there's a problem with it, it will reject it for promotion. So that's already running and working. Not running because we haven't made a new version, got a new release of the promoter. But if we were to do that today, it will do that. Okay, and then so in this case, what we want to do is we need to have a service account that so all of the Kubernetes image promotion runs inside of Cloud Build. And this Cloud Build, the Cloud Build uses a default service account. So what we need to do is to create another service account that will serve as identity for the signatures generated during staging. And we need to add permissions for the Cloud Build service account to generate tokens with the identity of the signer account. I opened a PR for that last night, and this is basically the only thing we need. I think there was a comment around the project where this account may live. To be honest, I have no preference. Since this is like an internal project, I don't think it doesn't necessarily have to be part of the bigger topmost Kubernetes identity, because if you were to see it in a more tree-like way, there's the topmost Kubernetes identity, and this could be like a project of release engineering, so it doesn't have to be part of that. I mean, we can store it there if there are other needs, but we don't need to have that account anywhere, really. So that's the basic idea. It will build, sign all of the stage images, which and then we can verify those during the release phase. So that's the basic overview of the flows we are building. There are PRs open for some of these, and I would like to hear more comments about the establishing the signer project and to see if anyone has other ideas. That's why I haven't yet opened, or I don't know how to request a new project for that, but I still haven't started on that. But I would like to hear if others have any other other ideas around hosting those identity accounts. So okay, yeah, Arnon, well, go ahead.
I have a comment, a question. I will start with my comment. The first comment is we should stop use Kubernetes release test GCP project for the release process because it's a Google project, not a community-owned one. And we did some change, I think 3 weeks ago, about fast forward. We basically decided to stop using that project. That's my first comment. Welcome to Sasha. Also, my question right now is not directly related to the image signing, but more like to the binaries in general.
Okay.
So right now we don't sign binaries like for Windows and Mac. And someone asked me how we plan to handle that in the future, knowing signature for those operating system imply proprietary certificate.
Okay. So the first one, so what you're saying is, as part of the fast forwarding of the branches, we are going to move the release process to a new project. Is that it?
It's already done. So right now we stop. I think the fast forward job use the staging release engineering test project.
Oh, okay. But for the fast forward project, right?
Yeah, in the future, we should use that project for everything related to release engineering or during the release process.
Okay. So I think it makes more sense to actually build the identity account on that project, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'll switch the PR to use that one. Okay, no problem there. We still need to add the permissions for the current release process account, because changing that release process is not trivial, because we have to make sure that all of the identities, permissions, and everything match. But it's a good thing, and happy to also look for to moving that in the future. And then the other question was, I don't know if there are any comments or suggestions about that. Okay, and the other one was about signing the binaries. Yes, definitely we are signing the binaries as well. Currently all of the effort has been on the signing MVP, and so we are making a huge strides to go from basically no code for signing to getting out the public image signed. And all of the there are other things in the middle which we need to fix and ensure happen, like for example signing the images during staging. But right now the goal is to get the public images signed. That's the first one. And there's at the same time there's the signing of files and artifacts and blobs also going on. This one is a little bit more behind, but work is going on, and it will be basically the same process. So you have your artifacts, and you should, whenever you release them, you will run them through the promoter, which is not just an image promoter, it also promotes files. For example, the KOps project already uses that. And so whenever you publish your artifacts via the promoter, they're gonna get a signature, and it's going to be stored in the buckets along them. For verification purposes, so right now, the tool we're using, which is Cosign, it allows you to verify those signatures. Once we get the Kubernetes delegation in place, for files, you're going to have to specify the exact delegation that you're going to do for which you're going to use. So whenever you verify using Cosign an image, for example, you get like a clear path of the blob that you're verifying. So you get a domain and then a path which stuff uses to calculate the trust chain all the way up to the full CR root that gives you that chain of trust. When you have like an artifact that you downloaded from somewhere, you can verify that the signature is valid, but in order to ensure the full chain of trust all the way up to the 6 root, you will need to pass a flag to specify the Kubernetes delegation that you basically you have to tell Cosign that you're using the Kubernetes delegation to check that artifact, but it's going to work as well. I don't know if that was clear.
So we absolutely need to use Cosign to verify the binaries. Is it?
Not necessarily, because you're going to have a signature, which you can use it to check the signature against the binary. You can absolutely do that. But one thing that so it's one thing is to ensure that the signature matches the artifact. That's one thing. But then in order to give you a little bit more trust, as if that person who signed the artifact is allowed to sign said artifact, you have to go all the way up to the trust chain, all the way up to the root of trust, and then you have to pass the actual delegation for Cosign to use. I don't know if that's clear, or maybe frame it in another way to understand. So you get your signature and you can check that it's valid. So the signature will tell you if the blob you're looking at has been tampered in any way. That will allow you. But the chain of trust, which is the top delegation, which we were talking about last Friday, that allows you to ensure that the Kubernetes organization says it's okay for an identity to sign that account. So you can we will be able to assign certain signers to projects, and for example, people will not be able to sign artifacts from one project. People from one project are not going to be able to sign artifacts from another. That's the point of the top delegation. So you may sign the thing and you may produce a valid signature which matches a blob, but the truth of the root of the chain of trust will not be completed all the way up if you're not allowed or designated as a signer. The idea is that each project will determine the people or service accounts, but whatever the release process is, to each project will be able to determine who can sign their things.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. And all right. And so it's okay. All right. So I wonder, Arnold, if there are any other concerns around the infra changes that we're moving on here. Do you have any? Well, you or anybody else any other comments around establishing that root project for the signatures and storing keys and things in there?
I want to be cautious about this because if we basically set up the GCP project for signature, we directly go in production. So I think we should start have iterate tests firstly in the same project and see how this is happening, because we have, before we get a production project for signature during the image promotion.
So how would you like the tests to look like? So what?
I think the first thing we should do right now is make sure we can basically sign the image in the staging project. I think that's the first thing we need to make sure.
In staging.
In staging, that's the first thing we need to do. Once we are sure we basically can sign and possibly verify careless container images, we can talk about promotion and basically say, okay, we are ready to go in production, and we can basically promote sign image during the release process.
Okay, so yeah, we can absolutely work on that. So so currently so signing is basically done for the image promoter. It doesn't run, not even the tests, because the accounts to do that are not there. But we can certainly complete the signing during staging. Yeah, absolutely, and we can test those in the mock releases. Yeah, absolutely. So let me. I think with the permissions I requested on PR, let me check which one was it.
We can talk about this async, and I will just create the script on the PM match, but I just want to be cautious because for everyone in the call, we do cross, I would say, cross permission different projects. So there are some security risks because for the staging images, we use the same service account. So we need to make sure we don't have a security issue during the every time we do impersonation, because
on that one we're going to have to do cross project now.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to switch it to the other, right?
Exactly, because if you basically sign an image in case staging Kubernetes, every time you do the signature, you impersonate a service account in a different project.
Mm-hmm.
And once you do the promotion, you need to impersonate another project, another service account in a different project for promotion.
Exactly. Yeah, and these signatures will be carried over from staging to release, and then after promotion, they will still be available. That's the idea. But yeah, definitely we can work on finishing the release process signing part. But we need the permissions, otherwise it will break.
Yeah, we can look into that this week, and I will actually the script.
Okay, yeah, that's the that would be the permissions on 2445, I think, but we can take it offline and to make sure that we're on the same track. Okay, so any any other questions around the impersonation flows and or the tough delegation? I'm not a tough expert, but I've been to. I know that some release managers jumped into the tough call last week. Probably got caught in not knowing what the effort was all about. But I'm happy to answer using my limited knowledge of tough or how we plan to structure that.
Yeah, maybe just one comment for clarification. If we look at the second image on the impersonation flow during image promotion, then it mentions that we sign images and we need the impersonation for that on the signer project. Do you want to update this one? I mean, we were thinking about copying over the signatures, right? That it's more clear that we don't actually sign in that step, but we copy around signatures.
Yeah, but this is only for the identities. Don't the signatures are not. Or how do you want me to add the verification step as well?
Yeah, probably. I mean, for me personally, it's kind of confusing, but I'm not sure how to express it more clearly, right?
Yeah. So which part is confusing? Because it is confusing. It's not really easy to understand.
I mean, we have the back is totally clear to me. We attach the signatures, which basically means that we'll upload them to some location, and the same for the SBOM, right?
Exactly.
But what happens in the sign images step exactly?
Okay, yeah. So let's go over that again really quickly. So whenever you have a service account which will serve as the identity of the signatures. The proposal here is to create a new project where that account lives, and it's there. That account should have permissions, specifically token creator permissions for the promoter service account, the main account that runs the promoter. So whenever the promoter runs, it will generate tokens on behalf of the signer account, create the signatures, attach them, and that's it. I don't know if that made it any clearer or not.
Yeah, it made it more clear. But are we, again, I have to ask this question, are we copying over the signatures from staging?
Yes.
Then we should make it clear on this flow diagram as well, because sign images more or less implies that we create new signatures, for me personally.
Yeah, no, they're going to have both signatures. So you're going to be able to verify that the image was signed by staging and also the public Kubernetes image.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, yeah.
Okay, yeah, but yeah, we can, just like we are attaching the SBOM in the image, we can add like a little step there, copy image from staging or signatures from staging.
Yeah, but it generally, all those mermaid graphics looks really cool. So we should add them to official documentation after that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, cool.
I'm not very well versed on doing mermaid schemas, but
yeah, but I know that there was a feature request on GitHub to support those graphics, and now it happened really. So cool.
Exactly, and I think it really makes it easier to explain things.
Yeah.
Okay. So point taken on that, and I'll do the shift of the pull request Arnaud to the other project, and we can start working on signing during staging. So the good thing about signing things during staging is that we can run as many mock releases as we want, so to ensure that things are getting signed properly, and maybe have some images to work with and test the promoter, copying the signatures and everything. Okay. So with that, I think we're at time, and if anyone has any other questions, suggestions, please comment on the impersonation issue.
I do have like a question, but we just drop down. We can talk on Slack.
Yeah, or do you want to go over it now? I mean,
So basically, I think 2 3 weeks ago, we were talking about basically uh, take over the release process of the system packages from Google.
Mhm.
And in order to do that, we need to have new GPG keys and build a web of trust between the different release manager for that. So I'm trying to, the question is how we do that. And do we have a signing party during Valencia, or can we do that online? So I'm trying to basically understand how we can generate that new GPG key. Who is Signature the person responsible for those new GPG key, and how we build some kind of web of trust between the release manager?
I mean, currently no one is working on that.
I volunteered to work on that 2 weeks ago. I got busy recently. I'm gonna be busy in the coming weeks, but just want to make some progress about this.
Okay, so you want to take over that?
Yeah. My main question is, if I create a new GPG key, how we distribute that, and how we can basically try to have a signing party, I want to call it. It's basically a standard process to basically build trust about during this process.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
also how we need to do that communication, because it's a breaking change. We need to ask everyone in the entire planet that they need to import that GPG key.
yeah. So I think the first one would be to write a cap on how this could work, because it involves lots of changes. And basically, I would think that we would need to have like the two repos working together for some time, and then have a policy of deprecation and all of that. I think it should go into a cap, but we can start throwing ideas around that and seeing if how feasible and how much amount of work is. Keep in mind also, I don't know if you got it from the tough talk on Friday. There are some people that are interested in extending all of these six-store root of trust, the chain of trust, into the signatures in the packages themselves. There's no like a concrete effort right now, but that would be an interesting thing to keep an eye on as well.
No, I'm aware of the proposal, but the adoption from the different Linux distribution gonna take a long time before we reach that state. So in the meantime, we should basically try to take over that part from Google, and later we can import that GPGK inside Sixstore root and keychain, and see how this is, if it's possible. I don't know, or maybe maybe later, I mean, in let's say 3 to 4 years, create a new key directly from Cosign, that because we suppose Cosign can sign now system packages.
Yeah. I mean, just so I would say that, considering the amount, looking at the amount of work we need to do for the system packages in the Kubernetes system packages, to having our own distribution and roots and all the policy deprecations and all of that, and seeing how some of the projects in Sixter have been moving, probably would be a good way to keep under consideration. But we can definitely start working on detached signatures and keys, and then see if we can have any progress. I'm happy to chat over it at Slack, and we can start building a cap if you want.
Okay, I think we have a cap that basically needs update, but I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Arno. Thanks, everyone. So we'll be seeing you in 2 weeks from now. And any questions, please be sure to sound over in Slack.
Cool. Thanks.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Bye.